Good morning, everyone. Welcome in the general track keynote session for the day 2 of the 11th International Conference on Global Information and Business Strategies, organized by Geetaratan International Business School, Delhi, in association with ICT Academy, New Delhi. In this session, we are going to start with two stalwarts from two sides of this globe. Dr. Rajat Ghosh, welcome you in this particular session. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very
And
much. Thank you.
Professor Dr. Pradhan, he is from Kathmandu, Nepal. Good morning, sir.
Good
Welcome
morning.
you in this session. Without not taking much time, let we discuss about what actually these conference have identified. We know that in the last year, that is 2020, the whole world faced a global crisis from a newer dimension, that is the health pandemic, which ultimately effects on the economy as well as different business domain. Yes, we have learned many things, and researchers, they do not stop anywhere. They usually want to identify opportunities within the problem situations. So with this idea, this particular international conference has been set where the educationists, researchers, and policymakers, they all come together on a common platform to discuss how they have faced, what they have thought in this new session of post-corona era. Now I am introducing Dr. Rajat Ghosh. Dr. Rajat is a proud Indian by birth and citizenship, has 25 years of experience in teaching as well as managing learning that started with his first teaching assignment in Dibrugarh University, Assam, in 1995, though we are very good friends from 1991. He is also extended his academic services to University of Calcutta, Kalyani, Netaji Subhas Open University in West Bengal, before shifting his professional base to Muscat, Oman. He was an associate professor and the director of studies in English language at Madan University College, Muscat, Oman. It is affiliated to the University of Bedfordshire, UK. At present, he is on sabbatical, engaged in curriculum restructuring of MA in English language teaching program of the Netaji Subhas Open University, Kolkata. He holds a PhD in English and foreign language from Tezpur University, Assam, India. He is an MPhil in English linguistics and phonetics from the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad, India. And he is also an MA in English from the University of Burdwan. His doctoral thesis was published from Lambert Academic Publication, Saarbrücken, Germany in 2010. He did his postdoctoral studies at the University of Konstanz, Germany in 2013. He is a member of the Higher Education Academy of US, UK, and a life member of International School of Dravidian Linguistics, Trivandrum, India. Noteworthy among his several academic accomplishments were his two presenters in the World Congress of Applied Linguistics in Beijing, China in 2011 and in Brisbane, Australia in 2014. Apart from his teaching English language and linguistics, and applied linguistics. He taught students of business management for more than 10 years, where he scholastically explored how applied linguistics can enhance the graduate attributes of management graduates so that they can be agent of economic and social transformation towards nation building. Sir, we are delighted with you to be with us and today to deliver your session. Sir, please.
Thank you very much. So do I share the screen or do I
am
will
sharing
you?
the. I am sharing.
Yes, please. Thank you. And how do I move on?
There is a right side. You just click on the slide. There is a next button.
1 second.
Can you see it? At the last, there is slide button. Last. You are in setting. Go to slide. Or you can see in the
1 second.
yeah, just below your presentation
Slide.
there is
Yes. I found and I got the next as well.
yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Please, sir. Please.
So I may start now, right? Dr. Ghosh?
Yes, you can start.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for kindly inviting me to be the keynote speaker, one of the keynote speakers in this prestigious International E-Conference on Global Information and Business Strategies. I heartily reciprocate your generous academic approach, and I consider it a rare privilege to be part of this important scholarly event of national and international relevance and importance organized by GIBS, a promising institution of learning. Dr. Ghosh, your introduction of me was very generous, but let me add a few more facts about my academic experience. Although I came from a different academic discipline, that is English language, linguistics, and applied linguistics, I had the opportunity to work in an institution with an active department of business and management studies, where I taught students of business programs and interacted academically with the staff on interdisciplinary platforms. So today's talk is actually a continuation of that, my academic dialogue with the business management scholars. It is that experience that allows me to understand the significance of my role today as a speaker to you, as I speak to you, and let me assure you that I'm going to deliver my content with a sense of deep academic and professional responsibility attached with it. I taught for a long time in a British curriculum for 15 years. So my major input today will come from a number of, from one principal UK-based literature on UK-based literature, which will guide us in our understanding of management and standardization of higher education in India. And I'd like to invite the audience to explore their scope of applicability in the Indian educational scenario, especially in the context of the new education policy of the Government of India 2020. When I was requested by Professor Ghosh to play the role of a keynote speaker, I started preparing for it. The first question that came to my mind was, what am I going to do, and exactly why? So I planned it this way. I would discuss the notion of standards in higher education. I'll talk about their relevance. I'll point out their significance in the context of our Indian national education policy of India. I'll introduce the standards framework for the Higher Education Academy UK and see how it can be explored and contextualized. I'll take the audience through each significant point of the framework, and I will share in the process, I will share my personal academic experience of handling the framework. I would also explore its adaptation I would in fact invite you to explore its adaptation in the Indian context of higher education. I am aware that today I am speaking to people who are placed in high responsible and accountable positions. So I have the hope that, they will get something to ponder upon, and we can continue the dialogue uh, uh, even after the talk today. Right. What am I not going to do? Usually people expect, keynote speakers to talk down upon them and to tell them what you are doing is wrong and what I am doing is right. And so you need to do what I'm telling you to do. No, I'm not going to do that at all. I'm not going to prescribe any formula. I'm not claiming that the framework that I am introducing is the best one. I'm not trying to teach the teachers of management. I'm not telling the audience that you have a lot to learn from me. I am not going to demonstrate my PowerPoint skills. I'm not telling the audience to switch on your cameras if you are bored. And I'm not telling the audience to start applying the framework from this framework this afternoon onwards.
Rajat, just a
In
minute.
short, yes, please.
Rajat, just a minute. Professor Pradhan, if you please
Yes.
switch off your microphone because it is
Okay.
replying.
Okay.
Rajat, please.
Yes.
Start.
So my idea is is sharing and not exactly prescribing. So with that note, I may proceed. Right. When Dr. Ghosh asked me to give one of the keynote speeches, so I knew that I had the key, but where is the lock? A keynote speech, to go by the linguistics of it, must have something important which would address some kind of a gap somewhere. Okay, so I started exploring in a different way, and I'm not selling a solution which needs a problem. I am just trying to address some of the gaps in the academic management field um, in India and especially and also in the Asian countries. Right. This lock can be at the personal level of a teacher. Imagine someone saying, I hardly have Scopus indexed publications. I am not on a Google Scholar. No one looks at my LinkedIn profile. I haven't got an increment for that. My employer is not smiling at me in a meeting. I am not able to apply for a better job. This is the predicament of many of our dedicated teachers who are professionally very, very inspired, dedicated. They work for their students, and they dream for a country which is built by a nation which is built by their students. However, they have these issues. And the same person supposed to be saying, I deeply interact with students inside and outside the class, guide them, love them, and reach them to the threshold of further education. But what I have noticed is that the human resource faculty or community, the academic human resource in the educational field does not exactly have a framework to assess the professional worth of a teacher who is into the job of teaching very deeply inspired. And I thought the framework that I have today will be able to address some of their concerns. Now there is a national law as well. We are trying to measure water with just an inch or a centimeter scale. We are conveniently ignoring the other dimensions of the container of water. What happens is that when we think of promotion, when we think of recruitment, and even when we think of rewarding or not rewarding a teacher or an educational professional from the platform of academic management, we have only one yardstick. What is the yardstick? Number of publications after PhD. We don't have a consistent, consolidated yardstick to assess their professional worth. As a result of which, many academics who have dedicated their lives in the classrooms and in student progress, student retention, and students learning management, they are being ignored by a system. So we hardly have any other instrument of professional assessment of a teacher and his academic management skills. And this is why I accepted this invitation, that I'll be getting a platform to speak to the people who think and whose decision matters. Right, and this is not my imagination. Let us see what goes on in record. I will be reading it word by word. A new General Education Council, GEC, shall be set up to frame expected learning outcomes for higher education programs, also referred to as graduate attributes. A national higher education qualification framework, NHEQF, will be formulated by the GEC, and it shall be in synchronization with the National Skills Qualifications Framework, NSQF. Higher education qualifications leading to degree, diploma, or certificate shall be described by the NHEQF in terms of such learning outcomes. In addition, the GEC shall set up facilitative norms for issues such as credit transfer, equivalence, etc. through the NHEQF. And this is from the National Educational Policy. Now, why did I highlight these three phrases? We all know that, shall be and will be refers to the future time. That means right now, currently, we do not have such a framework. The country is in dire need of developing a framework, and I thought this is the right time to talk about and to review other frameworks which are already in operation. The framework that I will be introducing today is 10 years old. It was first introduced in 2011, and it has been tried out in many contexts, and I myself have worked with it, and I'll talk about it. Right. Now, the key or the keys. The first key word in my title of the talk is standards. The second, the key phrase is learning-based institution, and the qualifier is institution of higher education. Now, what I'm trying to do exactly is that I have observed, and many of my colleagues in my institution and other institutions have expressed their agreement with it, that at the institutional decision-making level, we have been dedicating our energy, our investment, and our attention to developing teaching capacity. We are investing on higher, highly qualified people. We are paying very high salary for them, remuneration for them. We are investing in IT faculty, IT facilities, and IT faculties, IT support faculty. We are investing in infrastructure, very comfortable classroom, very good cafeteria, this and that. All this is, all these are fine, but there is an end to it. There is a saturation point beyond which, institutions cannot compete with each other. If you have money, you can buy them. But there is something which is getting unnoticed, which you cannot buy with money. And that's where is my attention today. I'll be emphasizing upon the human element, human intervention in higher education, and higher education, and in higher academic management involved in higher education. So, two questions to ponder upon. Can the best of HR selection, infrastructure, certification or affiliation, and educational technology guarantee the best of learning experience? What about the students and the experience, the learning experience that they are going through in my institution, which is offering, which has got best of professors, best of infrastructure, best of certification, and best of educational technology? What is he coming out with? Is he coming out with with a sense of confidence that I don't need your campus recruitment, I have found a job myself, or I do not need a job, I am an entrepreneur because I have got such solid education and learning experience. It is enough for me to lead a life independently without relying on a job. I don't need an employment. I have employability skills, and I will use these skills independently. I will look for my own investment. Have we been able to build up that kind of a confidence in a graduate? Right? So what lies there between teaching and learning? This is what I'm going to explore. Again, we have done best of teaching, but has it transferred or translated into best of learnings? Right. So to my HR colleagues, I would like them to reflect on this one question. What is the biggest challenge in higher education today, higher education HR today? In my observation, this is the job contraction syndrome. That is, we are not seeing new jobs being created. We are seeing that institutions are investing less on recruitment and more on educational technology. They would hire rather an IT expert to run their educational technology machinery than a dedicated teacher. A dedicated teacher means, I'm not saying a most qualified teacher, a dedicated teacher, because the dedicated teacher's assessment of his professional worth is not there. So, our overuse of educational technology, in my mind, is also sometimes it hides the infrastructural limitations and so on. I'm not going that way. Right. To my HR colleagues, I have another reflection. I would like to invite you to reflect on this one. What is so human in human resource? I don't have a degree in human resource or even general management, but what is so human in human resource? Where do we use human involvement and human intervention in academic management? Right now, I am seeing the human beings are diverted a lot towards managing the educational technology, and often they're using the technology because they think they have to use the technology, otherwise they will not survive professionally in the educational industry. So what is so human? So where is the scope for one's own human attributes which will be superior to artificial intelligence? Because I believe natural intelligence and emotional intelligence is has much more potential than artificial intelligence. So to remain human, we need to do what Google cannot do. We need to be distinct from digital entities. This morning, I saw my son switched off his video in his online class. He is in class 5, by the way. And when I said, why are you not in class? And he is doing something with his toys. His computer is on, his teacher is teaching. He says, well, what the teacher is teaching, I already know, I saw it in Google. So the human mind has to do something what Google cannot do. We don't need a teacher to do something which Google can do and with other digital entities can do. So because humans have their ability and capacity to understand their own act, they have their ability to introspect and improve themselves instantly. So many times we go to a classroom with a plan and we see that the students are not ready for it. Mood-wise, their knowledge-wise, their preparation-wise, and we change the plan. This is because we are human, but computers cannot do so. If you make an app and send the app to teach your students, a computer cannot. It has to go a long way. In making decisions. I remember I watched a very interesting video between Mr. Prannoy Roy and Sundar Pichai, the Google CEO. And Prannoy Roy was asking him very futuristic questions. One of the questions was, when do you think artificial intelligence will be at par with human beings? And Mr. Sundar Pichai, without blinking an eye, he said, it is when the computer can take decisions and make decisions and apply decisions. Until then, artificial intelligence is inferior to human intelligence and emotional intelligence, right? So all humans by default are metacognitive in their minds. So by the way, computers still cannot upgrade themselves. So what is needed now? We need to review now the scientific utility of a tool of human-like reflection, a tool which will allow us to reflect our human potentials. So it is in this context that I will be talking about the Professional Standards Framework 2011, which was introduced by the Higher Education Academy of UK. They have a website and you can read the details about them, about the framework. Since its introduction, teachers across the world, regardless of disciplines, found it very useful to understand themselves. It can be used to introspect and spot areas of improvement and learn about their areas of strength and weakness. In other words, it is like a magnifier through which hidden professional attributes of a teacher can be viewed. And for this talk, the distinctly human element in teaching can be understood. But in case you need to start with, if you want a linear approach, then one can, inform oneself by visiting this website, or there are many websites where you will see keywords such as learner development, learning differences, learning environments, content knowledge, content application, assessment, instruction planning, instructional strategies, professional learning and ethical practice, leadership and collaboration, according to this one. Now, out of these 10 factors, you will see what gets the maximum importance is the first 3 items: learner development, learner differences, learning environments. And we will see that in our framework also, these aspects have got very good, importance, high importance, I mean. Then comes the content knowledge, which relates to both the teacher and the learner, and the content application of the teacher and the learner. And as we go ahead, these words will help us as as background knowledge. Let me move on. So the professional standards framework has three dimensions: areas of activity, core knowledge, and professional values. And I will take you through each areas of activity, um, uh, the aspects of core knowledge, and the aspects of professional values as per the uh, as per the uh, as per the framework. Right. So what are the 5 areas of activities? By the way, this time, next 4 slides, I will have to be reading them word by word in order to take you through the slides and its content. And so I would expect a little bit of patience on your part. So 5 areas of activity are design and plan learning activities or programs of study, teach or support learning, assess and give feedback to learners, develop effective learning environments and approaches to student support and guidance, and engage in continuing professional development in subjects or disciplines and their pedagogy, incorporating research, scholarship, and evaluation of professional practices. I have not made any changes in the wording. I have not paraphrased or summarized. This is the exact wording from the framework, and the source is acknowledged in my references. Now, what we notice here is what I have put in bold: learning activities, support learning, and feedback to learners, and learning environment. So out of the 5 areas of activities, 4 of them relate to the learner, and one focuses on the teacher. So this is what was making an appeal to me, that this framework is giving us an opportunity to understand our learners in a much better way, and it is giving us an opportunity to understand how we are going to manage the learning activities of our learners in order to give them a better learning experience when they are in our institutions. Next is 6 aspects of core knowledge: the subject material, appropriate methods of teaching, learning, and assessing in the subject area, how students learn, that is our information on student learning techniques and student learning strategies, the use and value of appropriate learning technologies. It does it does acknowledge the wide and deep role of learning technologies, so it does not ignore it, and methods for evaluating the effectiveness of teaching. This is very important. I will be discussing it again. And the importance, implications of quality assurance and quality enhancement for academic and professional practice with a particular focus on teaching. And the next dimension is 4 professional values: respect individual learners and diverse learning communities, promote participation in higher education and equality of opportunity for learners, use evidence-informed approaches and outcomes from research, scholarship, and continuing professional development, acknowledge the wider context in which higher education operates, recognizing the implications for professional practice. Until here, every word is from the document, from the source document. And we need to understand one thing, that this framework is not linear. It is a 3-dimensional framework, and these values and the points, they interact with each other. And when we carry on with our academic practices, we want to see some of the values, some of the aspects of core knowledge are related to some of the areas of activity. So this is where this academics across the world have found it quite useful in understanding. It is a tool for metacognition of teaching, and it is a tool for upgrading the machinery which will address the learning experience of students. Right. The question will be at this point, how practical is it to use this framework? On paper, theoretically, so many things appear to be so rational, and it appeared to be so ideal, but can we really use it? My answer is yes, very practical. My experience over for 3 semesters, I have used these different tools from this framework, and I tried to understand my teaching, my courses, my learners, their achievement, their progress, their shortcomings, my shortcomings, and so on. So there is what it, first of all, what it did to me was there is a paradigm change in a sense of purpose from capacity building of teaching to capacity building of learning. This is what I have experienced. It has given me an opportunity to evaluate how effective I was as a teacher. It allowed me to identify new locations for learning environment. It brought in more of life into the classroom. Let me just take 1 minute to tell you what I mean by more of life into the classroom. I was teaching a course of English language and media. Now, how do we write for the media, especially print media, and different genres of writing? And there was one genre of writing which is, entertainment or leisure, where we see newspapers often publish recipes. And here in this part of the world, that part is very, very elaborate. You get half a page of a newspaper talking about one recipe with their ingredients and a nice photo and a very good narration of how to follow the recipe and so on. So instead of just telling the students what to do, how to do, and so on, what I did was I organized an in-class picnic. I hired a big hall, and I said, I told the students, you get into small groups of 2 or 3, and you cook or prepare. You bring all your stuff, you cook or prepare the material, the dish, and you sell it here. And once you have done it, now you write your recipe, and now you prepare a media text. Now, where did I get this idea from? I got this idea from this framework, which tells me, look at learning in a different way. Students are not learning only from you. They have their own ways of learning by themselves. You just create the environment. You just expand the environment. You just break your rigid notions of what a learning environment is like. And then I also learned how to make use of feedback for learning enhancement. These are, very solid points that I myself have learned from this framework. Now, let me take you through the minor points in the framework. One is, the first one, if you remember, is about planning. The first area of activity is planning. And as management teachers and management scholars, you know better than me, you have better frameworks than me to understand the importance of planning. So it says, design and plan learning activities and programs of study. What I want to stress upon is the fact that we need to do this planning a little more consciously. Planning is part of our activity, but conscious plan, we have to plan consciously, and we have to keep documenting our plans. Often our plans are in the mind, Often our plans are hiding in the syllabus. Often we don't have a plan other than what the syllabus is telling us to do. Syllabus gives us a plan, but where is my personal plan? When do I act on it? So, my idea is one can plan before, one needs to plan, in fact, before the semester, each week, a kind of a micro plan. I'm talking about systematic planning. I'm not saying that anyone here goes to a classroom without a plan. I'm talking about a systematic planning and a documented planning. So, before the semester, each week, each class or session, or in the middle of it, as I said, only human beings can change their plans, reflecting on the fact that the plan is not working. If you have done such a thing, document it. And this document, you will see, will give benefits to you. After the first assessment, if you are in a semester system and if you have two assessments, one in the middle of the semester and one in the end of the semester, look at your plan after the first assessment. Look at the student performance, because student performance will tell you how much is learned. That is, how much of your teaching, of our teaching, has actually been useful, will be reflected from the performance in the first assessment. So these, planning in these stages is extremely important. So let us document our plans and let us make them transparent and let students know what you have planned. Often we have a plan and we are stuck to it, and our students don't see through it. Our students don't know what is there in the teacher's mind, or how the course is going to unfold through the 14 weeks or 15 weeks of the semester. Students do not have a clear idea of it, as a result of which they have a poorer learning experience. So that is why I'm stressing upon the aspect of planning. Next is about teaching. Teaching and learning. Don't teach me teaching, but that learning thing anyway, carry on. So teaching and support learning. I'm not telling any teacher to teach better. Every teacher by default is a good teacher. But before we start executing the teaching plan, we need to identify what is new. What is for, I have my teaching material, I have my knowledge, but still I need to use my human faculty of metacognition in order to distinguish in my teaching material what is the new information, what is there for understanding or comprehension, what am I going to illustrate, or what will I ask the student to illustrate, what will I ask the student to compare and contrast, or I will compare and contrast, where will I invite the student to reflect or extend, or where will I ask them to contextualize. In your business studies, there are so many ways you can use this contextualization. You bring a case study from Google, you bring a case study from Amazon, and you ask them to contextualize it in Indian scenario. But you are doing it all the time. What I'm asking is to make it a part of your plan and be aware of it. Don't do it haphazardly, and don't do it unsystematically, and allow the learners to do further conceptualization. So if you categorize, if you use a taxonomy like this, which comes from, mine came from Bloom's taxonomy. If you have a taxonomy at your hand, and if you use it to reflect on your teaching material beforehand, you will see miracles happening in your class. Your students are behaving in a much, much better way, and that will give you tremendous amount of satisfaction how students are managing their learning. Next area of application or area of action is assess and give feedback to students. Imagine a teacher is saying, telling the student, I have given you marks and grades. अब जाओ, don't eat my brain. हमें तो research करना है, research. Don't take my research time away. This is, I'm not saying somebody is doing it, but this should never be the attitude of a teacher who's involved in the process of assessment. So assessment, why? Because assessment is not just a tool of measuring the learning outcomes, it is a learning exercise in itself. It is a tool of reflection or a metacognitive tool of metacognitive development. A student just doesn't take his or her result and goes home and sleeps. A student reflects on the result time and again, much more than we think of. So it is directly related to his intrinsic motivation or demotivation and has a deep impact on the learning management at the student's end. We cannot wash our hands off from immediately after awarding the marks and the grades. We have to take it a little further than that. So students have to have the right to validate their results against their self-assessment. Every student does so. Even I did so. Everyone here has done so. I thought I would get an A at least, and you have given me B plus. Why? The student may not be able to articulate depending on the situation, but it works in the student's mind. Students keep validating their results against their self-assessment. And if there is a lot of gap, there must be something wrong in our ways of assessment. So we have the accountability towards transparency. And this is why feedback needs to be deeply ingrained with the assessment system. The student has a right, an ethical right. It may not be part of his curriculum, but he or she has an ethical right to understand why he is given a B plus and not an A minus. So he needs to, for example, he or she needs to be given the the marking rubric. Why are you marking him the way you are marking it? You need to explain, right? So our involvement, our human involvement in the area of activity called assessment and feedback to students is very, very important. Right. What next? The next is the development of effective learning environments. How do we develop effective learning environment? We know we all are masters of our classrooms, and in the pandemic situation, we know how to arrange and how to manage our IT facilities in order to teach well. But we need to reflect in a human way on the aspect of effective learning environment. So we need to ask ourselves questions such as, and I'm not saying the answer is going to be the same. Everyone has his or her own set of answers, which is his or her own reality. But then these questions are important, and these questions are again coming from the framework. What does learning, where does learning happen other than the classrooms? Is it an individual exercise always? Someone said there was nothing like collective learning. What are the conditions for good peer learning? Does it happen at home? Where at home? Do we learn even when we dream? And things of that sort. I mean, the last one is an open question. Different people have different degrees of involvement with the learning experience. Anyway, some of these questions, and one can frame questions, many more questions than this. The idea is that we need to reflect on the effective learning environments and bring them into our understanding of the teaching process. Next is continuing professional development. Initially, I talked about a scenario where a teacher is dedicated towards teaching and is doing less of research in this area. But then that is not the only scenario, that is not the only possibility. One can rearrange one's professional development plans around students' learning. In my institution where I worked, we had a system of, annual appraisal, staff appraisal, annual appraisal of staff, performance appraisal, where we had to give a plan for a year. In next academic year, in coming academic year, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? My line manager will ask me. So if I am next to the head of faculty of English, I will, in a friendly way, I will sit with him and I will explain to him, this is my academic, these are my plans for the next academic year. Now, what are the plans? One is I will do something for the curriculum and for the institution. What I am going to do for the curriculum and the institution should give me some kind of benefit in the long run, because one day I will leave this institution and will apply for jobs. So I need something to show that this is what I have done. And it should also give me some intellectual satisfaction that I have not only taught at an undergraduate level, but I involved myself with larger academic purpose. And I will have a pragmatic plan. I will develop a course, or I will look into a certain aspect of a course, and so on. So today, when I look back in last 6 years, I see that yes, this was a good approach. Every year I could do something related to the classroom. I have collected data from the classroom. I have reshaped my teaching materials. I have informed my students in a different way. I have involved them in my own research, and so on. And by the way, some of them, especially the first two, my work in 2020 and 2019, these two attempts, research attempts, involved students of business, students of IT, as well as my own students in the English faculty. So what I'm saying this, if I can do, anyone can. I'm not superior or anything. Just that this change of perspective needs to be there somewhere, that I will do research, definitely, but I will not do research in a selfish manner, only for my material academic benefits. In my research, I will include my students and their academic welfare, and it should enhance somehow their learning experience. Next is aspects of core knowledge. The subject material, what do we do with it? We all have the core knowledge, and that's why we are recruited by our employers. So what should we do? Do we just follow the syllabus? Am I too attached to my 25-year-old list of references? Some of the books I know by heart. Should I update? But someone said old is gold. These are discipline-specific decisions. I cannot tell a management teacher what you should do. Should you upgrade your references or not? How many of your old references are classic and how many are updated? This is everyone's discipline-specific, institution-specific, and curriculum-specific decision one has to take. How do I tell those big guys? This is the problem of many of us, that when we are given the syllabus, especially in the Indian context, I'm sorry to say, we see that the syllabus is not linking me to the ground realities. What my students need and what my institution needs and what my country needs is not reflected in the syllabus. How do I tell those big guys that this syllabus is prehistoric, and I don't have the ability to change it anywhere? However, in my experience of teaching in a British curriculum, it gave me a lot of academic freedom to shape my course. Every semester, I restructured. Sometimes I did not when I saw that the previous one worked in a good way, but most often I restructured uh, my teaching plan. But then this is my, often it also happens that this is my comfort zone. If you tell me to, give a course on these 4 case studies, I know them by heart, and so I'm not going to do anything about it. What I'm um, asking everyone to try at least is to check, is to question the syllabus and not accept it as it is handed over, right? So, and this questioning is to keep in mind that a teacher's human intervention into the syllabus will enhance the learning experience of the learner. Next point is about the methods, because the framework says appropriate methods for teaching, learning, and assessing at right level. At Majan University College, where I taught, we followed a credo framework. Okay, so what is the credo framework? It's very simple. I'm not telling you to use the same framework. You can develop your own framework based on a few decisions that you have taken and that you have executed in your class. For example, combining innovative face-to-face teaching with smart use of technology. We have been using technology since 2008, and in 2008 we were all very insecure, especially people from non-IT departments. So what is this? What is this Moodle? What is this Turnitin? We slowly, over the semesters, we equipped ourselves with the knowledge, and we came up with this decision. We will combine innovative face-to-face teaching with smart use of technology. It is not, it has got nothing to do with our smartphones, by the way. What I'm saying, smart use of technology means we will use the technology as much as it can enhance the learning experience of our students. We will not allow it to distract the student just in the pretext of using better technology. So reducing the length of periods of lecturing. Research says, shows all over the world that students do not have the attention span today as we used to have 30 years ago. 30 years ago, Dr. Ghosh and I in Bardhaman, University of Bardhaman, could have listened to our lecturers for 1 hour without any distraction, not even looking out of the window when it is raining or something. But today's students, they cannot look at the lecturer, and in the online it is the situation is even different. I won't say better or worse, but it is different. So we need to reduce the length of the periods of lecturing, encouraging student participation. We all do it, but we don't do it consistently, and we do not do it systematically, and we do not do it planfully, with a plan. Developing students as independent thinkers and learners. Often we have less respect for the students. I am a PhD with so many years of experience and so many publications. What do these students know? I'll give you a simple example. And this is true of everyone. Today's children are much ahead of. They are in a different generation in terms of their IT skills. My daughter keeps changing my computer, configuration and this and that every other day, and I have to learn from her. How did you know? And the other day, one of our phones fell into water, and she said, and the shops were not ready. She said, you can put it in a bowl of rice and cover it with rice for 1 hour, and it will attract the moisture out of the phone, and the phone will start functioning. How do you know this? I learned it from YouTube. She is 11 years old. So what I'm saying is that if this is the knowledge base of an 11-year-old student, imagine the knowledge base of a student who's between 18 and 25, our students. So we need to keep in mind, not only keep in mind, we need to plan and execute, and we need to document how we are developing students as independent thinkers and learners, and how we are offering individual support to students. Often we are very unwilling to do so. I have taught in the class, I have taken the online class or real class. Outside the class, I really don't have time. I have meetings to attend, I have letters to write, I have research to do. I don't have time for individual support system. By the way, again, in my institution, previous institution, Majan University College, we took about again 8 to 10 years to develop a system of academic advising. It's an official system. Every student has an academic advisor to whom they relate to, and every teacher, in addition to his 18 hours or 20 hours of teaching, has 2 hours of 2 timetabled hours of academic advising, when he is officially accountable towards talking to students. Students often don't need advice, but just to talk to them how they are doing, just to take care of their emotional well-being when they are at the institution. This is very, very important, and it should feature in our planning. Student learning, both general and within the subject area. Again, I am not an expert to talk about it. In your subject area, you will have to take your own decisions. However, some of the questions that I have in my mind should be relevant. One is, how much of general knowledge can I assume on the part of the student? Now, why am I asking this question? Often we see that I am giving a very good lecture, my presentation, my PowerPoint is very good, there is no other distraction, but the student is switching off. The student is looking at the WhatsApp message when I am speaking, and it is irritating me and it is making me angry. But we need to think why. That is because I am saying something which the student already knows, and a student knows it through the general knowledge, through his general knowledge. So how much of general knowledge can I assume on the part of the student, to my mind, is an important question to ask before I enter the classroom or the teaching activity. How much of their linguistic knowledge can I assume? If I pitch my lecture at a high level of using a high level of language, will all the students follow it? Or if I talk to them in a very simplistic way, will they like it? Students often do not like simplification, because too much of simplification and less opportunity to of being challenged may create boredom in their mind. How much of mathematical or statistical abilities can I assume? I am a master of mathematics and statistics. I can do things on the board, but are the students, are able to, manage their own pace of learning? How much of IT expertise can I assume? And so on. Often I found answers to these questions. Once I found answers to these questions, my teaching gun is ready to shoot, and it is a better one this time. So some of these questions are important in relation to addressing this standard of the framework, student learning, both general and within the subject area. Then, the use and value of appropriate learning techniques. We think all our students are learning the same way. No. We think all our students are learning at the same pace. No. We think all our students have the same ways of approaching the teaching material. Research says, it is not I who's saying, research says that is not the case. I won't talk too much on this slide, but just give me a minute. Let's read this. Rereading. I know everybody did this. We also did when we were students. Rereading, highlighting, summarizing, self-explanation, elaborative interrogation, keyword mnemonics, imagery used for the text learning, distributed versus concentrated practice, practice testing, and so on. These are different ways of students approaching to students diverting their learning mechanism towards what is being taught. Just let me take up one point from here. Distributed versus concentrated practice. I have a mental makeup in which I could not distribute my energy over a period of time if I have to learn something. When I was doing my MA, we were in a 1 year system. At the end of 1 year, we would have examination of 4 papers. For 1 year in our university means 9 months of teaching and 3 months of preparation. During the 9 months of teaching, I spent most of the time doing extracurricular activities, taking part in drama, in politics, demonstration, and so on. And I concentrated my learning activity into the 3 months of non-taught preparation time. So this was my learning technique. But my teachers did not know about it. There were students who studied 8 hours a day throughout the year. And in our classroom today, we do have different students who have different approaches to learning techniques at their disposal, and we have no knowledge of it. I'm not saying we need to, collect information from everybody, but we need to sensitize ourselves in order to have a better teaching machinery, to keep scope for everybody. This is what you study through the semester. However, before the exam, you can do this much. These are the 4 papers which you need to read again and again and again. These are the papers, you just need the summaries of it. We can distinguish our, teaching material according to some of the principles, and there are plenty of information coming from educational psychology and cognitive science disciplines like that. Right. Often we are too confident about our teaching, but we don't have a method of evaluating how effective our teaching is going to be or is being. How do I understand and make sure how much of my teaching is actually translating into learning? As I said in the beginning, we are well equipped to teach, but how much of teaching is translating into learning? Does my institution have tools to ensure that? There, I'm talking about two tools especially here. The first and the second one, the quantitative tool, the assessment performance statistics of cohort result. This could give us um, uh, an information, a piece of information as to how effective was my teaching. Why are the students failing, or why is everybody passing? Something of that sort. Qualitative, if there is a channel or a platform for student feedback, that can give us an idea, that can be acting as a method of evaluating the effectiveness of teaching. And for our own knowledge, we can use a few observational tools like student behavior outside the class. If a student has not been able to follow my class, often I understand how the student is behaving with me outside the class. Sometimes the student is not is avoiding a social interaction with me just because he or she has not understood what was taught in class. This is of course not very systematic, but the first two are quite systematic. The third dimension of the framework is commitment to the professional values. And as I said, this framework is not a linear framework, it's multi-dimensional, and each dimension interacts with the other. So the first professional value is respect individual learners and diverse learning communities. Mindset wise, we teach a class. We often don't take individual learners into consideration. Each learner is different in optimizing multiple intelligences, in learning styles, learning paces, retention abilities, mental makeup, motivational level, and so on. The teacher's delivery needs to be constantly readjusting to them. No formula other than the teacher's discretion would work. I, from here, cannot tell you, you do this and you do not do this. I can only tell you to be sensitive to this reality. And that's exactly what the framework is telling us, to develop this as a professional value. The next professional value is respect every learner's background, promote participation in higher education and quality of opportunity for learners. Often I don't want to elaborate, but we have seen that teachers come from different mindset with different preoccupations related to individual or a group of students, social, linguistic, economic, racial, religious, and so on background. This is not expected, and this needs to be developed as a value that a teacher will carry out through his areas of application and through his approach to the core knowledge. The content, approach, language, allusions, examples need to be sensitive to that. We must not bring in things which into the classroom through our content, through our language, through our examples, which will hurt anybody's social, linguistic, economic, racial, or religious background. Special arrangement for learning disability. If in our class there is a student who's dyslexic, or who has, in the pandemic online teaching situation, if someone has a network issue, one cannot log in, what am I going to do to address that situation? We cannot just say that talk to the IT department of the college, or subscribe for a better plan with Airtel or BSNL. This is not my issue. If a student has an issue with his or her device, part of the responsibility is mine as well, if not anything, to give him one more chance so that he or she is at par with the other students. And that's what this, equality of opportunity means for me. Acknowledge the wider, next value is acknowledge the wider context in which the higher education operates. For preparing our students not just for their degrees but for life, industry and nation, let's actually ask these questions. How is my course going to prepare a student for his life? Now, this not only is a question, but there is a scope for documenting it. You can document it in your address to students. You can document it in your Moodle page. You can document it in your internal institutional document, that I have mapped the learning outcomes of my course with the graduate institutionally announced graduate attributes of my college or the university. My college says graduates of this college, management graduates of this college will have certain qualities. How is my course, which I'm going to teach for 4 months in a period of 4 years, how is my course going to contribute to the graduate attributes? So that is the wider context for me. Another wider context is, how is my course going to contribute to the industry through each student? Because my student is going to the industry. What does the industry need? And how am I going to prepare if the industry needs 8 skills, how many
Dr.
of the 8 skills can I
Dr.
address?
Rajat,
Yes.
can I take Dr. Rajat,
yes, please.
Can I take?
Yes, please.
Sir, I think Professor Pradhan is also waiting. So if you can make your presentation short.
I understand what you are saying.
Please.
I have very few slides left. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, fine. Thank you. And then finally, the coordination, support, supervision, and management. As I've written it already, this slide should be left empty as I'm speaking to the scholars of management. All these points are very important, and we need to develop it as a value. How can this framework make a feasible professional impact on me? This can make a feasible professional impact on me by allowing me to ask questions, to refine questions, and when we see there are multiple answers to the same question, we can identify variables, we can do systematic study of the variables through statistical means, and our statistical output can be used as input for management decisions on HR, finance, or strategic planning. And then can it give us something that we are poor in? Yes, it can allow us to do better curriculum documentation, and it can allow us to do our strategic planning in a much better way. Can it work as a key for any of the logs? Yes. And how can it work? I'll just take half a minute to say what this one is about. This table comes from another document which is called Commonwealth Standards Framework for Teachers and School Leaders, where we see a simpler framework has been used to assess the professional standards and levels of proficiency of teachers. The rest of it one can read from the reference. There are two areas that I did not discuss. One is educational technology and one is quality assurance in academic management, because these are slightly different areas. My concluding remarks. Dr. Ghosh, I'm hearing what I'm saying. The standard framework does not give us a ready-made formula or a prescription for enhancing learning or academic management. What worked for me may not work for you or your students, so you are the best judge.
Dr. Rajat, can you hear me? Dr. Rajat, your voice is not coming. Professor Pradhan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, Dr. Rajat, your voice is not coming, and I think there are two systems you have opened it. So, can you stop any one? Then you will get a better output. Your voice is not coming yet. Please check once again. We are not getting your voice. I'm just stopping your slide for a moment to check. Dr. Rajat, I think you have to once again disconnect and have to join. The same procedure, anything I say your microphone problem. Professor Pradhan, I know that you have to wait for a long time. Please bear with us.
Actually, I have got another meeting, so
Yes, within I think 5 minutes he will complete. Okay, Professor Ghosh has joined. Hello, Dr. Rajat.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now it is fine. I am once again starting.
Last, I was on the. Yes, that's right. So basically, the third point is important. The tools included here should allow us to manifest our human potentials, to think critically, futuristically, strategically, as well as pragmatically about our own institutions, and examine our existing academic practices as case studies to reflect and to reconstruct in order to resurrect. We must keep upgrading our human attributes before someone else upgrades the technology to replace us. And let me conclude with the punchline: myself must I remake. And that's all. Every good thing, comes to an end. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. It was not possible for me to see, how you react to it. But if time permits, I can take a few questions, or you can write to me over email. I would like to remain connected with all of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Rajat. We will take your question, though there are questions, but after Professor Pradhan's, because he has another meeting to join, so let me start with him. Okay, you please switch off your microphone. I think in the two system you have opened, so please put your microphone off in both. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the session you have taken. Basically, it gives me an idea that how the world is running. In India, we are thinking about MBA is not possible. National Board of Accreditation, whatever they have suggested, sometimes we think it is impossible. But the way you have explained, it is nothing but the steps that the National Board of Accreditation has suggested. You just give us that idea in such a prolific manner. I am honored. I feel honored that today we have Dr. Rajat Ghosh with us. Thank you, sir. Let me now introduce Professor Radhe Pradhan. Sir is the currently academic director of Uniglobe College, Pokhara University affiliate, Kathmandu, Nepal. Good morning, sir. Though it is good afternoon, so at the start, I can say good morning. Sir is a 40 years professor of Tribhuvan University, Central Department of Management, Nepal. I think introduction for Professor Pradhan in any way, a little bit less. He himself, an icon of Nepal in the higher education field. Sir, you are most welcome in our session. I do not go for a lot because I know that you have another meeting. So I hand over the mic to you for your deliberation, please, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a great time last year in Kitaratan.
Thank you, sir.
Participation was a grand participation last year. Last year means 2019 December. Some 12 papers from Uniglobe College have been presented at that time. Some 16 participants from Uniglobe College had participated in that conference, and you are organizing another international conference again. So congratulations to Kitaratan and congratulations to the organizers of this e-conference. The chairperson of today's e-conference, the other organizers of today's e-conference, very good afternoon to all of you. And please accept my hearty greetings from Nepal and my namaskar to all the participants who are there online. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers of this e-conference for organizing the international conference. That also on very important topic, global information and business strategies. So what a great theme you have chosen. And I would like to thank Kitaratan and the organizers of the international conference for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts, some of my ideas. And I salute the organizers of this international conference for organizing this kind of international conference, that also at a very difficult time. So once again, congratulations to you. And last time, I could remember, I met Professor B.S. Ghosh, I met Jinder Sahib, and Dr. Anup Ghosh, extended a very warm hospitality at that time. We still could not forget all that you have done for us. So thank you once again. Now with this brief, I would like to share my slide.
Sir, on the top there is a share button. Turn screen share on.
At the top?
Yeah, where there is a turn video on, turn audio on, then turn screen share on.
Yeah, that I have already clicked.
Just click, then you click on. There are three sections they shown.
Yeah.
One is full screen. Your
Full
desktop.
screen, yeah.
Desktop. Click on it.
Yeah.
Your it is. Now you open your PPT. I will show it. Everyone can see it. Yeah.
It's already open.
Yeah, it is open, and just make it presentation mode. Yeah. Yes,
Are you
sir.
able to see it?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, good. So once again, greetings from Nepal and warm welcome to my session. So Dr. Anup Ghosh sir told me that I speak on the business scenario of Nepal in post-pandemic area. So we know that novel coronavirus COVID-19 has created widespread concerns, and Nepal is no exception. So like in India, we also had lockdown in Kathmandu, and I am showing some of the photographs of Nepal so that it will arouse interest to all the online participants to visit Uniglobe College and to visit Kathmandu. And due to coronavirus in Nepal, there is a widespread cessation of business activities. Almost every sector has been affected by this coronavirus. The story is everywhere the same, not just India, Nepal, but we have been watching televisions how coronavirus has affected the whole of mankind. And mankind has got a very difficult time due to this coronavirus. So basically today I would like to share some of my ideas on trends sweeping through today's business. This will be first part, and the second part will be social, economic, and demographic forces and trends reshaping the modern business. So I will be focusing on these two themes basically. Now, first of all, I will throw some light on trends sweeping through today's business. So we all understand that system of business and its markets is undergoing revolutionary change. And due to this COVID-19, again, we have been witnessing how system of doing business has changed. And new products are expanding rapidly. New types of services are expanding rapidly, and there is a wave of innovation. So we are forced to innovate. So how to promote business even during this pandemic situation? And even after this pandemic, trend toward deregulation will continue, because the whole of 19th century, we had experienced the regulated economy. Everything used to be regulated by the government. Interest rates used to be set by central banks, and the prices of essential commodities are used to be set by the government, but we were tired of those regulated economy. Everybody wanted freedom. Therefore, towards the end of 19th century, we have come up with deregulation. So let the economy works like a competent police officer. Let economy run by itself. So that is the idea we have conceived under deregulation. That means we have followed a policy of privatization, liberalization, and globalization. So even after pandemic situation, I believe that this privatization, liberalization, globalization will continue in the days to come, and it will increase much more in the days to come. When there will be an increase in privatization, liberalization, and globalization, there will be more competition. So even after COVID-19 situations, we are finding how businesses are competing among themselves. So this kind of competition is likely to increase much more in the days to come. So that means in the days to come, firms will be locked in an intense struggle which is unparalleled in history. So we have been hearing in news that many of the businesses have been closed due to pandemic. So that means the firms are going to struggle quite a lot in the days to come. The kind of struggle which is unparalleled in the history of mankind. And firms are expanding their operations nationwide and outside the nation also. Firms have been trying to expand the business, trying to diversify the business, but still looks like it is not enough in order to get a desired level of business. And recent years, particularly because of this pandemic situation, have gone more challenging for many of the large companies. So large companies means they have to sell more, and selling more is becoming very difficult due to this pandemic situation. Therefore, there is a pressure on firms to increase efficiency. There is a pressure on firms to increase product quality. That also under newer and newer products. Now, we have been witnessing in the past that firms have had increasing number of business graduates because recent business graduates are supposed to be equipped with latest analytical techniques because business firms are under the keen competition. So how to survive in the competition is becoming a biggest challenge. Therefore, the business firms are required to use the different types of management concepts in practice, which we teach in the classroom. Now, I would like to refer to this particular research, practice of financial management among large US corporations. It was carried out by Erika and Alan in summer 1995. It was published in Financial Practice and Education Journal. Now, I just want to reproduce one table. If we look at this table, we find that whatever we teach in the classroom are being used mostly by the business firms. Whether we visit mining and crude oil, whether we visit food and beverage, whether we visit motor vehicles, pharmaceutical, shops, office equipment. See, this is a survey of 4 techniques. So it is finance. We can also conduct this type of study in our context using different management concepts. So my question to all is that we need to conduct this kind of study in our context as well, not just confining to financial management techniques, but marketing techniques, HR techniques, and other techniques of managing the business. So this is just for the example I would like to cite. So if we look at mining and crude oil, projected cash budget has been used by 100% of the firms. So 5 firms were visited by the authors. and sources and uses of funds are also used by 100% of the firms. Financial and operating leverage has been used by 80% of the firms. Break-even analysis has been used by 40% of the firms. The authors have computed the overall response also. If you look at 1991 composite row, we can
Professor Pradhan, can you hear me? I think due to some technical glitch, the system is off. He will join very soon. During this time, we can discuss with Dr. Rajat. Dr. Rajat.
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, I know that you were here.
No, what I'm saying is,
I think
I'm physically and mentally here.
Yeah. Professor Pradhan, I think he's disconnected. Dr. Rajat, we have got a question.
Yes, please.
That sir, how we can get idea about whether my plan is proper or not? In Indian context, the question is like this.
No, yeah, that is, you need to validate your plans, and for that you need a mechanism. First, you can start with a personal mechanism, like I will take feedback, informal or formal feedback, on a weekly basis, or I will collect my feedback away from the students, what the students are saying. I will collect my feedback from their result, the cohort result in the first assessment, how they are doing. You said you did not understand what I taught, but how did you write this? Which means you have learned, but in your belief system, you are saying that I did not teach well.
Right.
So there are different ways of collecting feedback from students, and you can validate the feedback. Once you have validated the feedback, you can institutionalize the process. You can share it with your colleagues in your department, then across the department, and you can make an institutional document about it. Hope I answered your question.
Taking your point into consideration, the next question, which is also on it, but just on the side, higher side. Do you feel there should be newer ideas amongst our policymakers, because the way foreign countries are thinking is out of the idea of our policymakers?
Now, this is a mindset. This is a mindset. We think policy maker is sitting somewhere over there, and I am here in the classroom. We have to, talk louder. We have to talk louder. We have to use our own platforms like seminars of this sort, social media, writing in the in the media, journals, and so on, so that they would understand. Because we often have this habit of taking the credit for ourselves and blaming the policymakers. How is the policymaker going to know? The person who's officially the policy maker may be coming from another academic discipline, but he is an IAS officer and he is a learned person. It is my responsibility to reach my ideas to the policy maker. I cannot blame the policy maker unless I have reached my ideas to him or her. So this is my response.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for giving the clear idea.
Thanks a lot. Welcome. Most welcome.
Another point, very,
Yes, please.
I
Please,
say,
please.
hard hitting.
I'm pleased to be challenged actually. Yeah, I
No,
like it.
not your point. Uh,
Yeah.
the faculty members who have joined,
Mm.
they now are thinking that what Dr. Rajat has said, if I want to showcase myself,
Yes.
what type of challenge I can face. Okay, so from that angle, they are putting the questions. Like
Mm-hmm.
this madam has put up a question. If my
Yes.
HOD stops me to set
Mm.
any new concept or plan, how I can overcome that hurdle? Please give me some
Uh,
suggestion.
I'll tell you a very, very practical solution. First, you take time. You tell your HOD, sir or madam, give me 4 months, give me one semester. You don't do anything on your own unless you take the person on board. You tell him or her that, well, I have some new ideas. I want to give it a try. Give me 4 semesters. I'm sorry, 4 months or one semester. I will make sure my experiment is not going to affect the learning outcome or the plan of the department or the curriculum. I will deliver all that you want me to deliver. In addition, I want to do something more. And that is my responsibility. And you can check it again from the students' performance and take the students on board. You don't have to talk for yourself. Your students will go to the HOD and say that give Dr. So and so or Mr. or Miss so and so one more class. We like it. Then your head will, start thinking in a different way. Why are the students saying this? That is again, it. You need to reach to the learners level. You don't have to speak for yourselves. If your learners starts talking about your classes or your course, okay.
Right,
So
sir.
that's my experience.
Sir, I think, do you have any idea about National Board of Accreditation procedure, that is outcome-based learning process? I think what you have said, that is basically outcome-based learning procedure. And MHRD India is also thinking in the same way that if you want to be a world-class educator, you have to prove what you are teaching, that teaching is ultimately come as an outcome in your product, that is your student.
That's right. That's
Until
right.
and unless
Actually,
it
this
is
is
proved, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
sir. This is a global phenomenon. Uh, we might be in different platforms, but globally, that is the scenario, and it
Yeah.
comes from an experience, which is again a global experience, that institutions are teaching something which the industry is not ready to accept. There is a gap between what the finished product from the institution and the expectation of the industry. So in order to bring the industry closer to the institution, uh, it has to have a learning outcome based approach. And this is a global phenomenon, and a lot of research is going on in this area. How to make your curriculum, closer to the needs of the industry.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
I think still there is a problem going on in case of Professor Pradhan to rejoin. Uh, if we just wait for another minute, I already have sent him mail because we are connected through mail only. Professor Pradhan, can you hear me? Though we are not connected. Dr. Ghosh,
Yes.
uh,
Yes,
I
please.
think let we discuss for another a minute. And if
Yeah, sure.
Professor Pradhan could not join, then ultimately we have to close the program. Uh,
Okay.
though it is a wonderful session, we have discussed since morning that how the educational quality can be developed to a height so that we can prove that whatever we have taught to our students as a product, they can ultimately show that yes, they have learned that and they can do it by practical. If it is the ultimate outcome, then it is the success of the teacher as well as educational system
Absolutely.
over the world, over the globe, everybody is doing the same thing.
Thing.
And
Yes. Yes.
yes, obviously, we know that in India, there is a plethora of students. That is why the concept is like that student will automatically come, they will fill up our seats, and ultimately they will be judged by a examination system, they will get some marks, good marks, and they will pass out. But what's after? MHAD itself have identified that only 30% of our passing out students in higher education are employable because of the reason that we never probe ourselves that what we have given to them, whether they can showcase it or not. And
Now,
this is the success. What the success is there, that is, let we make our product marketable. If you have any further points.
yes, I would just take it forward to a business angle. You know, a private institution. I'm not worried too much about the government institutions because they don't need to see whether their investment is giving results. But if I run a private institution and if I have to have a future in mind, if I have to compete with 5 different or 50 different private institutions who are claiming to be giving the same education, I have to make difference somewhere else than others.
Professor Pradhan has joined by this time.
Fine.
Professor Pradhan,
So I'll
can you hear
I'll
us?
excuse myself.
Yeah. No, just we check first whether he is available. Professor
Yes, yes,
Pradhan,
I'm here.
uh,
How I
it,
got disconnected?
I think your network was slow for any point of time. It becomes zero. That's why you have make yourself out.
Okay, but are you able to look at all my slides?
No, sir. First, you have to switch on your video. On
Oh,
the
I see.
top, there is a turn video
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and then you go for again turn screen share on.
So you are not able to see my slides?
Now it is not showing. You have to go turn screen share on. You have to start afresh like that, and you will go up to where you have completed. On the top, there is a turn screen share on,
Yeah, yeah, that I have done.
and then click on the enter screen. Yeah, now you open your PPT. Yes, now it is.
Is it visible now?
Yes, make use
Yes,
of
sir, I can
presentation mode.
see it.
Yeah.
I do not know how many slides you were able
Next,
to
you
see.
go to the next. Go to the next. Sir, make it on presentation mode.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, 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 sir. Next.
This is the last slide.
Okay, so back, make it back. You have shown up to that, I say, finance background. All those financial charts are there. There is a graph.
It's a table, yes.
Table, yeah, that table.
It's this table.
Yeah. Up till this you have completed.
Okay, the purpose of showing this study is that whatever we teach in the classroom is going to be much more meaningful in the days to come, because businesses have gone very competitive. So which company is going to survive, which industry is going to survive? Only those companies will survive which can use whatever we teach in the classroom in real life situations. So that is the meaning. So generally people think that whatever we teach in the classroom as useless, these faculties, whatever they teach, are little relevant in real life situations. So looking at this table is not correct. So that's what I want to demonstrate. So in the days to come, use of more sophisticated techniques is likely to increase much more. And whatever we teach in the college are going to be used in practice much more. And there will be a strong pressure to consolidate small firms into large ones. So in Nepal, our central bank has been saying that commercial banks, you all try to merge. So try to become bigger and bigger. It's because if we can become bigger, then there will be many more economies of scale, and the capacity to take the risk will also increase, and the companies can also survive even during the pandemic situations. So in the days to come, the countries will continue to follow liberalization, privatization, and globalization policies. There will be a falling geographical barriers. Market broadening will continue in the days to come. Communication technology will be playing a greater role in the days to come. And the challenges and techniques of managing the farms will increase much more in the days to come. Now, this is the second theme, which is social, economic, and demographic forces and trends reshaping the modern business. So business today is a response to broadening social, economic, and demographic trends. So whether we all agree or we don't agree, the social structure is changing, economic structure is changing in our society, demographic structure is changing, almost every sector is changing. So with the change in all these spheres of activities, the business is also changing. So recently we have been witnessing the pandemic situation. So how the business has changed, we all have been noticing. So in this way, the moment there is a change in societal structure, there will be change in business. And these trends are affecting not just business firms, but each and every sector of the economy. Governments, household, and every corner of the society and every nation on the globe will be affected due to this change. And we have been witnessing in our society that population is rapidly aging. So previously, life expectancy is something like 55 years, 60 years, 65 years. But nowadays, people survive for 90 years, 100 years because of the better medical care, because of the better nutrition. So we understand that life cycle hypothesis is changing. So that means expected time in the labor force is decreasing. That means by the time we reach 55, by the time we reach 60, we will be retired. But then we have to survive for 90 years, we have to survive for 100 years. So how to survive after retirement for another 30 years, another 40 years is a new situation coming up. is a new change coming up in our society. So businesses can take advantage out of it. Basic family unit is also changing. We have been witnessing in our society. Single parent households are also increasing. And we have also been witnessing in our society how there is a rising age at which marriages are occurring. Then how there is a changing attitude about childbearing. So these are the changes that we have been witnessing in our society. So migration of the people has increased mainly from rural to urban. And we have also been witnessing how divorce rate has been highest in the history of mankind. And we are also witnessing how people are choosing to live alone. Mainly older people are to live on their own. So these are some of the changes that are taking place in our social structure, economic structure, demographic structure. So with the change in these structures, the change in business is also obvious. We cannot keep on doing the business in the same way that our forefathers have done. A lot of changes have taken place in the method of doing the business. The whole concept of doing business has changed because our social structure has changed, because our economic structure has changed and demographic structure has changed. Then what are the other changes that are taking place in our society? So dual earner couples are increasing. We have been witnessing more men are these days responsible for household jobs. Childcare and daycare facilities are on increase. So these are the changes we have been witnessing in our society. Women are entering labor force in huge numbers. Women have stronger educational backgrounds. And if we look at our classroom in colleges, roughly equal proportion of young women and young men are there. And we have also been witnessing that how gap between the earnings of men and women has narrowed significantly. So as a result of all this, demands will continue to go for newer and newer products. Demand will continue to grow for newer and newer services in the days to come. So if we can be clever, we can think of exploiting these opportunities at earlier. And we have also been witnessing in our society how new forms of housing have come up so well, how flexible work schedules have become so popular. So due to COVID pandemic, working from home has become so popular. So that means we need to learn that it's time to think differently. And education is likely to be more expensive in the days to come, particularly the college education. It has already gone more expensive, but it is likely to become more expensive in the days to come. And manufacturing industries will continue to be displaced by service industries in the days to come. There will be expansion of service firms, and service firms will be creating most of the new jobs. Economy has transformed from agriculture to manufacturing and to information. Similarly, arbitrage opportunities due to discrepancies in prices and markets should be less frequent. And internationalization of financial and economic system will grow much more in the days to come. And the need for international cooperation will increase much more in the days to come. So one of the most dramatic examples in this connection is the formation of European Union. However, they will not be without the cost. Economic conditions in any one nation will become increasingly sensitive to foreign developments. So how COVID-19 has spread over all the nations, so we can learn it from recent pandemic situation as well. So it will now be harder for domestic policymakers to control or influence. So these are the trends which the managers should understand. And so powerful are these trends that none can be ignored by the managers and owners of today. So with this, I would like to conclude. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Because I have requested you to give us an idea that how this post-pandemic period, the country like Nepal is thinking, and the way you have presented, it is very crystal clear amongst us that how it is going on. Thank you, sir. During introduction, I have just skipped one or two parts. Let me once again introduce Professor Radhe Shyam Pradhan. He is the 40 years professor of Tribhuvan University, Central Department of Management, Nepal. He is a Fulbright Scholar of Florida State University, USA. He delivered lectures in different countries like Rollins College, USA, University of Hong Kong, Rikyo University, Tokyo, University of Warsaw, Poland, and he has visited a lot many countries in different statutes. So, sir, we are thankful to you that you came within us, provide your valuable time, expressed the viewpoint of country like Nepal. We are thankful to you, sir.
Actually, I am
Obviously,
thankful to Gita Ratan.
right,
Last
sir.
time
Thank
I
you.
came to Gita
Thank you.
Ratan and
Thank
said
you.
Gita Ratan Jindabad. Now
Thank you,
also
sir.
I would like to say Gita Ratan Jindabad.
Thank you.
I would
Thank you.
like to say Gita Ratan ki jai. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Professor.
Dr. Rajat, I once again thanks to you for giving a wonderful session during this post-pandemic period. We have learned a lot. Particularly, we have shifted our education system from a classroom system to a virtual technology. Previously, we do not understand what is the need, how we can do it, and something like that. But pandemic shows us that it is the requirement from your house, how you can control your class. Even if today we are coming to our classes, but there is no student. I cannot say anything to my students. Why are you not doing? Why are you chatting? They are some other place, maybe their mobile phone is on and he is through only mobile connected with my system to get an attendance, but his mental physical presence maybe something like your kiddie children, that they do know better that what we are delivering today, because they already learned it through Google and so many I say sites available. So with these ideas, let we come to a conclusion that we have to make better. Yes, obviously problem will be there, but this is the challenge before the educationist, before the researchers to think in a different way to overcome the situation, and obviously humankind will make success over Google, what Dr. Rajat has identified, that what we can do beyond Google. With this, thank you
Th-
all. Thank you
Thank
all
you very
the
much for this
participants.
wonderful
All my,
opportunity, Dr.
Thank
Ghosh.
you, sir.
And
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you, sir.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Pradhan. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting with you, Rajat, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I will be in touch with you, sir.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Thank you, sir. So we are closing the room now. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Thank you all the participants.